My brother threw my son's birthday present against the wall, laughing while he cried in front of everyone. My family said, "Oh, come on, it's just a joke." My father stood up, took off his ring, and slammed it on the table. The room went silent. "What?" he said next, shattered our entire family. I never realized how deeply broken my family was until my son's 7th birthday. For years, I played the dutiful, quiet background character while my older brother, Mark, was the untouchable golden child. No matter what he did, my mother covered for him. But that afternoon, the illusion finally shattered. We were hosting the party at my parents' house. For 3 months, I had spent every evening in my garage carefully, restoring a vintage remote-controlled Mustang that used to belong to our late grandfather. Leo, my son, is absolutely obsessed with cars. When he tore off the wrapping paper and saw the cherry red paint, his eyes lit up like fireworks. He didn't even want to play with it yet. He just sat there on the living room rug, gently tracing the hood with his tiny fingers. Then Mark walked in. He had a beer in his hand and that familiar, arrogant smirk on his face. "Let's see how fast this piece of junk goes," he said. Before I could even stand up, Mark snatched the heavy metal car right out of Leo's hands. Leo panicked. "Wait, Uncle Mark, it's fragile, please." Mark just laughed. He looked right at me, wound his arm back like a baseball pitcher, and hurled my grandfather's restored car directly against the brick fireplace. The sickening crunch of snapping plastic and twisting metal echoed through the room. The chassis split completely in half. Pieces of the motor scattered across the hardwood floor. Leo let out a devastating, breathless sob and buried his face in his hands. He was absolutely crushed. I saw red. I stepped toward Mark, my fist clenched so hard my knuckles were turning white. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I roared. Mark didn't even flinch. He just took a sip of his beer and chuckled. "Relax, bro. It was just a crash test. Don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke." Before I could tear him apart, my mother rushed over. But she didn't come to comfort my crying son. She stepped between me and Mark, waving her hand dismissively at me. "Oh, come on, Dave," she sighed. "It's just a toy. Don't ruin your son's party by being dramatic. You know how Mark is." My sister chimed in from the couch. "Yeah, Dave, you're overreacting. Just buy him a new one on Amazon." I stood there trembling, looking at my family. No one cared that my 7-year-old was on his knees, weeping over a ruined heirloom. They only cared about protecting Mark. Then, a chair scraped violently against the floor. My father, who hadn't said a single word all afternoon, slowly stood up from the dining table. He was a quiet man, someone who had kept his head down for decades to keep the peace. He walked over to the coffee table, stopping right in front of my mother and Mark. He reached for his left hand. Slowly, deliberately, he twisted off his heavy gold wedding band. He slammed it down on the glass table. Crack! The sound echoed like a gunshot, silencing the entire room instantly. The glass actually fractured under the ring. 32 years, my dad said, his voice trembling with a terrifying, quiet rage. 32 years I've watched you poison this family to protect a bully. My mother turned pale. "Frank, what are you doing?" "Shut up," he snapped. He pointed a shaking finger directly at Mark's chest. "You aren't a joke, Mark. You're a parasite." "And Margaret," he turned to my mother, "you're the one who fed him. I watched you force Dave to shrink his entire life just so Mark could feel big, and now you're letting him do it to my grandson." My father picked up his coat. "I am done. I am done funding your golden child's failures. I am done pretending this is a family. And I am done being married to a woman who watches her grandson get tormented and smiles." He walked over to the fireplace, knelt down, and picked up a broken piece of the Mustang. He handed it to Leo, gently picked my son up in his arms, and looked at me. "Get your wife, Dave. We are leaving." We walked out the front door, leaving my mother and brother standing in a stunned, suffocating silence. It's been 8 months. My dad kept his word. He filed for divorce the very next week and entirely cut off Mark's financial support. Without my dad paying his way, Mark's life imploded. He lost his finance truck and his downtown apartment within 3 months. My mother tried to guilt trip us, leaving frantic voicemails about how family forgives. We didn't scream. We didn't argue. We just blocked their numbers and let their toxic world collapse in on itself. My son got a real grandfather that day, and I finally learned that sometimes the loudest, most devastating revenge is absolute silence.